Hello, I'm Dan McDermott, live from Lynchburg, Virginia. This is the McDermott Report. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to call us, the number is right on the screen. We'd love to hear from you. The number is 818-688-6625. We'd love to have you participate. My guest tonight is Bret Herbeck. He is the former vice mayor of Front Royal, Virginia, and a financial advisor. I'll be asking him because he is, in fact, a political guy and a financial guy. We'll talk about some of the things that have been in the news. A couple of things I definitely want to ask him about is the surge recently of Michelle Bachmann in the race for the Republican nomination to challenge President Obama. I want to see what he thinks of Congresswoman Bachmann. Also, the Google controversy. I've been ranting about that for a while, and I'll continue my rants and see what Bret Herbeck has to say about that. Also in the news, a controversy in Egypt. This gentleman, a financial executive, a mobile phone executive in Egypt, tweeted a cartoon depicting Mickey Mouse in a beard and Minnie Mouse in a veil. It did not go over too well in Egypt, let me tell you. Also, Prince Charles has a huge staff, and it's expanded. There's a bit of a controversy. This guy's staff is like 130 people or something crazy. It's good to be the king, and he's not even the king yet. Also, believe it or not, some folks in Canada want to make Prince Harry king of Canada. We'll talk about that. A top Russian scientist, this is no flake, a top Russian scientist says that he would expect to encounter, that the Earth would encounter extraterrestrial civilizations within 20 years. We'll find out about that. A hot trend, it's not new, but it's hot now, is overnight stays at zoos. We'll talk about that. Bret's a family man. We'll see if he's going to venture into a zoo with his wife and kids. Also, 300 new species have been discovered in the Philippines. We'll take a look at some of them and discover that only about 10% of the species on the Earth are thought to have been discovered, which I guess is arrogant for humans to say, because just because we've not written about them in books doesn't mean that they don't exist. So anyway, Bret Herbeck, thanks for joining me. Again, our number's 818-688-6625. Bret, how have you had any thunderstorms in Front Royal?
Not yet. We did have some rain this afternoon, but it's been a pretty day. Humid, but pretty.
All right.
So we're doing well up here.
Well, like I said, you are a Republican politician. You're a former vice mayor of Front Royal, before that a town council member, and you're likely, in my opinion, to pursue some office in the future. So you're a political junkie, as I am. So the first thing I want to ask you about is Michelle Bachmann. She's been surging in the polls, and I was watching Chris Matthews on Hardball, and it's the best show on it. I like him. I don't agree with him on everything. I don't agree with him on a lot, but I believe that he, like Michelle Bachmann, I believe that he believes what he says and he says what he believes. He's not full of hot air, so to speak. And I can say the same thing about Michelle Bachmann. You see a lot of these candidates have different issues. Romney, I don't get I joke that I don't get the Chris Matthews tingle up my leg when I hear Romney speak. And also, Huntsman, of course, worked for the guy that he's trying to challenge, and so he can't really go hard on the attack for a guy and say, I worked for him for a couple of years. Michelle Bachmann is a surprise candidate. She's surging ahead, 1 point behind Mitt Romney in the latest poll in Iowa, which is to some degree you would expect her to do well in Iowa because she was born there. But what are your thoughts about Michelle Bachmann? Am I right that she says what she thinks and she thinks what she says?
I believe she does. As a matter of fact, I just went on her website yesterday to order some bumper stickers because I think I've come down to that. That's going to be my candidate right now. She's just an articulate lady. She's done some great things for our country, and I mean, she lives in the conservative value system that she espouses, the 5 kids that she's raised, and then I think 23 foster children that she's helped take care for. She's a career woman and tax law and the state senate and of course in Congress, and she's become a real champion for free market economics. She's a real champion for United States sovereignty and protecting our borders and protecting us from Islamic fundamentalism. And I think she could really take on the president in a debate. I'd really enjoy watching that. And I truly believe that because the Republican, the conservative values we should be the party that puts up the first woman candidate for president. I had wished that we had been the one that put up the first black president or candidate, but I think that the Republican Party should be the one that puts that up. What I'm afraid of is that they're going after her like they tore down Sarah Palin in the last election. But what I think might happen is if she becomes the nominee, it's very difficult for the mainstream media to not take her seriously. They can't do to her what they did to Palin if she's a nominee, because she does have a good chance of becoming president, and there is some gravitas just to the idea of being the nominee, where we really take pot shots at our vice president. But I'd love to see her the nominee. I was talking to somebody this afternoon how it'd be great maybe she'd pick up Herman Cain to be her vice presidential partner, and what a pair that would be for the Republicans to put up there. I mean, Sarah Palin bested Joe Biden, I think, in the debate, and with 40 years of experience in the Senate, I think Herman Cain will whip his butt, and I think Michelle would take Barack Obama to the mat, too, in any debate, and really be a leader of this country.
I want to hit a couple of those things. First of all, I think in the debate it'd be maybe a gaffe contest. I love Michelle Bachmann. I mean, I don't agree with everything she says, but you got she believes what she says. She says what she believes. I think she raised 24 foster kids. That's amazing contribution to her community and to the lives of those kids. And you have to admire someone who can do that. The Herman Cain thing, I think. That would obviously, I don't want to say obviously, that would be a mistake, because you need someone with some foreign policy gravitas to be on the ticket. Just in the same way that there was some discussion that Tim Kaine might be then Senator Obama or then President-elect Obama's choice to be vice president, but Joe Biden got the job because he was thought to be a more statesman-like foreign policy expert than Tim Kaine. I talked to some folks in Tim Kaine's cabinet and his advisors, and they said at first they were excited about it, but then they thought no, because Barack Obama is going to need somebody with some foreign policy experience, because he was a new U.S. senator, former state senator. So I would say that. And also, is it fair now? Both gaffes were well earned, and both get a lot of publicity. Sarah Palin gets a lot of publicity, and Michelle Bachmann gets a lot of publicity. Michelle Bachmann now an official candidate. Sarah Palin toying with the idea and doing tours, often in places where potential opponents are having events. But is it fair that the spotlight they're getting every time they make a mistake? It seems when I've never heard of Herman Cain making any sort of mistake. I'm sure he has, and my phone's on. I apologize. Let me turn that off. But do you think this is just they've made a mistake? I'm referring to Michelle Bachmann's made some errors about where John Wayne lived, that sort of thing, and some controversy with Sarah Palin, who made an error, and then allegedly her supporters were trying to change the Wikipedia entry for Paul Revere to make it match her story. Is this just a result of the spotlight they get because they're powerful women who have a chance to be on an equal footing with the men for the first time we've seen in our political lives, with the exception of Hillary Clinton, who almost became president a couple years ago? What do you think? Is that fair, or are they victims of the spotlight because they're new, or is it sort of a misogynistic way the media deals with them?
I think that they represent something that the left is afraid of, and that's a strong conservative woman that doesn't fit in the stereotype of what the now folks, Gloria Steinem and that crowd, want to see. I mean, I think that Sarah Palin deciding to have Trig with Down syndrome was a real affront to the abortionists out there, and they said, how can we allow somebody to go into the White House or be vice president that has a Down syndrome child? It's going to be raised in front of America, and all of a sudden the folks that are proponents of abortion are going to lose an argument in that regard. So I think they tore her down that way. Michelle Bachmann represents everything that now stands against, and the same with like Phyllis Schlafly. These ladies that are strong conservatives that articulate family values, traditional Western values. They don't march in lockstep with the traditional feminists, and that really makes that group upset, and they're going to target them. The same with Herman Cain. He doesn't march. He doesn't fit the mold that they're supposed to fit as a black American going along with the Democratic Party and being looking to them as their leadership. So,
he doesn't look like all the presidents.
They target him.
He doesn't look like all the presidents on the dollar bills. Maybe he could use that in his campaign.
That's right. That's
all right.
That's exactly what. And Michelle and Sarah don't either. So
that's right.
But I think that's what they're being targeted. So.
All right. Well, let's change topics here. Let's talk about Egypt real quick. Let's move on to Egypt. This is interesting. This gentleman here, an Egyptian Christian, so he's a Christian in Egypt, a telecom mogul, has angered Islamic hardliners by posting an online cartoon of Mickey Mouse with a beard and Minnie in a face veil. The ultra-conservative Islamists known as Salafis, this is a Reuters story, called the cartoon posted by Naguib Sawiris. I may be mispronouncing that. My Egypt's a little off, but Bret is an expert in Egypt and can help us on this. He posted this thing on Twitter. They called it a mockery of Islam. They launched an online campaign calling on Muslims in Egypt to boycott Sawiris' political phone company, or mobile phone company, Mobanil, and shares of that company and another one fell Monday on the Egyptian Stock Exchange. In fact, you could address this because you're a financial expert. Sawiris, who's also a politician, like Bret, promotes a secular Egypt. He owns media companies, and after Mubarak stepped down on February 11th, he launched a political party that calls for separation of state and religion. After the cartoon posted a few days ago stirred complaints on Twitter, Sawiris tweeted an apology on Friday and claimed he was joking. I think I'm mispronouncing this a different way each time. I apologize for those who don't take this as a joke. I just thought it was a funny picture. No disrespect meant. I'm sorry, he tweeted. But new Facebook groups came up, quickly gained more than 60,000 followers, calling for a boycott of his widely used cell phone company. Named We Are Joking Sawiris, the face group said, if you are really a Muslim and you love your religion, boycott his projects. We have to cut out the tongue of any person who attacks our religion. At least 15 Salafi lawyers have filed lawsuits accusing Sawiris of religious contempt. 15 lawsuits. An official at the Prosecutor General office said. Another face group named We Hate You Mickey Sawiris depicted the Egyptian businessman as Mickey Mouse. The group's motto is No to Mockery of Islam. The cartoons are another source of sectarian tensions which have already exploded into violence on a number of occasions in the chaotic post-Mubarak transition. A Salafi cleric appeared on TV and scolded him. Shame on you, he said. How can a man like this make fun of Muslims in a country on the brink of sectarian discord? If this is just joking, why don't you depict Mickey Mouse as a monk or a nun? Salafis are distinguished by the way they dress. In many parts of Cairo, women wear the niqab. I apologize, I don't mean to mispronounce that. A veil which shows at most the eyes rather than the scarf that covers only the hair. The men grow their beards long and often shave off mustaches, a style said to imitate the Prophet Muhammad. Bret, my first thought is, isn't it great that they're having this discussion, an argument, attacking each other with words in this hopefully budding secular, tolerant of all religions, not imposing a certain religion, in hopefully, budding democratic Egypt. Let them beat each other up on Facebook all they want, and use cliches like cut the tongue of any person who attacks our religion, as opposed to doing it for real. What do you think?
If it stays a cliche and it stays the way you just pointed out, that if it stays on Facebook, it stays within the free market of ideas of using the pocketbook by boycotts to put out their message, that's one thing. But what I'm afraid of is what we've seen across the globe is that if you say anything derogatory about especially fundamental Islam, you're met back with violence. And the question is, why couldn't Mickey Mouse be made fun of as a nun or dressed up as a monk? Well, we've had plenty of derogatory images of Christianity and certainly of Judaism, yet we don't turn around and kill people. And that's what I'm hoping that you're right. I hope that in this what's going on in Egypt now is that they are coming to a more mature level of discourse where they're arguing, they're using the free market to push their point of view. I have no problem with them causing boycotts. I have no problem with them using Facebook and the social media to get their message out. My hope is that it stops there and doesn't resort to violence. And if it does, that is a great day for Egypt, even if a voice is silenced because isn't agreed with. On the flip side, I think that now it's not Salahi's right the White House. This is a different name, correct?
Yes, sir. It is. I'll put his picture up. I don't know. It's a different. That's a Palestinian name, but this is not at all.
Okay.
To our knowledge, it's not at all related.
All right. I don't remember seeing his wife on The Real Housewives of D.C., so I think we're okay. It probably shows something to his mentality or his character. Know your audience. If you're selling products to a Muslim country, you probably shouldn't be making fun of your consumers, and that probably shows some ignorance or maybe some arrogance on his part as well. So. But you're right. It's a great day for Egypt if they can continue to have a discourse but not resort to violence.
Hopefully, it stays that way. Yeah, probably to his benefit that he was already a known quantity. He was not defined and presented to the Egyptian people in this context. This would be like if Donald Trump screwed up. We all know who he is, so he's not being defined by this. So I think, as long as it stays nonviolent, I think that they can use words all they want. Okay, let's switch topics here real quick. Bret, tell me this: how important was Facebook in your political career? Obviously, it has emerged toward the end of it, but it's a big deal, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way to communicate quickly to your supporters or to gain supporters, and it's on a local level. I mean, Front Royal is a town of about 14,000 people. We have about 1,000 people, 2,000 people come out and vote. So it's incredibly important to do that. But even you look at the national level and you see the folks like, President Obama using Facebook very effectively to get his message out and to circumvent the national media and the expense. So locally, I mean, we have the Warren County Report, we have the Warren Sentinel, which is over 100 years old, and we have the Northern Virginia Daily, which wants to pretend like it's a big newspaper when it's not, to cover a bigger area. That's our media that we have to get our message out. So if we want to, as a local candidate, to get our message out effectively, the Internet's probably the best way to do it. And considering the fact that so many young people are now on Facebook, and not even just young people, we've got folks up in their 80s that are using Facebook now, and Facebook effectively. They're reconnecting with families and reconnecting with those classmates, but they're also getting a lot of their information on it too. So I use it very much daily to communicate with friends and family on a personal way, but then also if I have some kind of political thought that I want to share with folks, whether they want to hear it or not, I can put it out there and get response and get feedback. So, and it's we've used it with this show, and you can use it. We've used it with the radio show that I've been on before, where people can post questions and have those questions come straight to to us to answer. So it's a phenomenal thing. I applaud the creators of it. I think that they have really pushed forward communication and the way for us all to connect and really bring that global village into play.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. Facebook's a big phenomenon growing, and now I don't want to do a whole tech segment on this, but now there's Google has released, I think it's called Google Plus or something. It just happened, and funny, it's in Google News. Google takes on Facebook with social service, and this is the one. I'm going to count how many stories this is because this is another issue. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 6th story down, which is fair. Google takes on Facebook with social service. It's going to be called Google Plus. Right now, it's invite only, and you can go there and you can sign up for updates. And I'm guessing that'll put you on the list, but that'll be really exciting. I'll get on it as soon as they do it. Google tends to do things well. I've been ranting about this, and I want to get your opinion because I promised the folks listening or watching that I would do this. I've been ranting about the feds going after Google. Mainly, it's advertisers, or I guess competitors, saying that Google is alleging that Google is showing preference for their own products and services on Google. And it seems to me, so what? That's why you create a property. And I've made the analogy: if I opened a hot dog stand in Warren County, and I own Warren County Report in Front Royal, the newspaper Bret mentioned, I would certainly advertise the hot dog stand for free in my newspaper. That's one of the benefits of owning a newspaper. If you own a billboard company, obviously there's going to be a lot of Herbeck, for whatever office you're running for, billboards up, and that's sole proprietorship. And it would be different if it's a federal campaign, as long as there's full disclosure and transparency. I don't have a problem if Google. It's like this, Bret. It's like if I went to Walmart and said that you sell a great value brand toothpaste on your shelf, and then I said, I want you to sell McDermott toothpaste. McDermott's Old Irish toothpaste. It's a nice, pretty green tube, right? And then they refuse to sell it, or choose not to sell it, or even if they did sell it, and knowing them, they would sell it if it was a good product, and I could produce it for 3 cents. But if I would go after the feds and say, I want you to sue Walmart or investigate them or lawyer them to death because Walmart is refusing to carry my product in its store. It's Walmart's store. They can choose whatever the heck they want to sell. I think the feds are. I think this is ridiculous. I think that I've made this analogy, and I won't go into detail because I've trumped this one a lot. But there are real monopolies, like the electric utility, the water utility. It's not It doesn't make any economic sense to run multiple water lines or electric lines to each home. So whoever has it, and they should have some government oversight to make sure they don't charge you $1 million a gallon. But other things like this are elective, and there are other search engines. They're not as good, or other services out there that compete with Google, but they're usually not free or not as good. And Google does get beat by things like Facebook. Now they're coming. I just think this is ridiculous overreach of the federal government, and the government has better things to do than waste their time and waste Google's time by pursuing these stupid moves, and they're going to cause. Look how much Microsoft lost its way when they went through all this stuff, and they've now been overtaken, by Apple. And I'm disgusted with this whole thing. I don't see where there's anything wrong with Google promoting its own products. It's a democracy, and that's First Amendment. What they put on that page is their business.
If they own it, they have the right to do what they want with it. That's my feeling too. That's why private property rights is one of the biggest, the most fundamental thing, I believe, that as a American or just as a capitalist that we have. I think private property rights trump even the right to life, because you can't even have the right to live if you don't have the right to own what you create, and not be forced to live for somebody else or have to hand over that good or service. Basic economics would tell you that monopolies are inefficient. And if a company truly becomes a monopoly, it will be driven out of the marketplace, because smaller companies will take advantage of that inefficiency and come in and they'll either force the monopoly to become more efficient, which is good for the consumer, or it'll break it apart or go out of business because the new technologies are coming in and making that obsolete. So I don't know that the government really needs to be involved in these kind of antitrust things. This is just another example of Big Brother or a nanny state coming in and trying to determine what is the best for us, where we have millions of people making individual decisions, deciding what's the best for themselves. And that's that invisible hand that Adam Smith talked about, that I think is so important and really has been the driver of economic growth in the United States and frankly across the world as third world countries and emerging markets become first world economies. So this idea goes back to Teddy Roosevelt, probably goes back before that, where we had to bust the big companies by the government. Ma Bell got that broken up. Well, what's happened to Ma Bell? It's come all back together. AT&T has been divided, and now it's AT&T is coming back together again. So you're right. This is another example where the government's intruding in and trying to take away private property, denying the ability for the creators of a good to be able to benefit from that good. They didn't do it because they're altruistic. They did it because they wanted to make money. And if we deny them the opportunity to become the best at that particular industry and be the king of it. Well, we've denied them the ability to do that. Well, we've disincentivized them to actually even creating the next great thing. So I applaud Google for going back and trying to fight this thing, and I hope they win, and I hope it sets a precedent for the government to back down. The DOJ antitrust department really needs to be underfunded if we could not defund it completely. So,
all right, okay. Quick question, because that was a softball question. I knew you were going to be against that. You're a financial guy. You're a financial advisor. Larry Sabato tweeted this yesterday or today about the Republican nominees. He said they're all fighting over this. He made two observations. One, he said everyone wants the perfect nominee, but the old saying, don't let good be the enemy,
perfect be the enemy
of good, yeah. Right. But he also said, we're all talking about this, but because there's no fight on the Democrat side, so we're all focused on the Republican side. But he said if the economy is bad, whoever the Republicans nominate will win. If the economy is good, it doesn't matter who the Republicans nominate, Obama will win. It still is the economy stupid to a large extent, isn't it?
Yep. No, I think that's right. That's exactly right. Sabato's been doing this for a lot longer than I've been around, because he was a professor at UVA when I was still a student at Virginia Tech, and I remember hearing him speak as a student. But no, I think it goes back to 1992. Clinton beat Bush. Bush was 80% favorable ratings after the Gulf War, and he looked unstoppable. The Democrats had a messy, interesting primary campaign where a little-known Southern governor comes up and takes the nomination, and James Carville coins the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." And it ultimately comes down to, are you better off 4 years ago than you are today? And as Reagan said. So, unless barring any kind of catastrophe that, which God forbid happens, that highlights national security and paints the president as weak at the helm of the military, it's ultimately going to come down to what are our 401ks doing, what is the tax consequences, how much debt have we laid on it, and what's unemployment. The good news from a Republican perspective, not from a country perspective, is that for us to get down to any kind of unemployment rate that is reasonable for a re-election to happen for the incumbent president, we'd have to be adding something like 500,000 jobs a month, which is just most likely not going to happen, especially when the president puts out a $600 billion tax increase proposal in order to prevent going up against the debt ceiling. So, I think ultimately it comes down to the economy. Is the economy healthy, or is it not healthy? And what people will perceive in that. And I don't know that it's going to be in 2 years when it's time to pull that level.
Right now, it's not healthy in my layman's opinion. All right, let's switch gears.
Well, you know what, Dan, and it doesn't matter if the economists say it's healthy or not, or whether the macroeconomics of it is healthy. It's what's perceived at the voter level, at the consumer level. We can spin all the statistics we want. We can look at all these great numbers when it comes to the amount of cash that corporations have on books, or their productivity, and all, and even CPI, or the consumer confidence ratings. But if the individual consumer and the individual taxpayer and the individual voter do not feel it's better, it doesn't matter what all the statistics and experts say. And
I remember we went through this with George H.W. Bush 41. And when he refused to use the word recession, and then he looked at the watch, and the electorate got got the opinion that he was out of touch, with the economic pain that was going on at the time. And then Clinton came in, I think largely as a result, mainly the economy, and like you're right, James Carville's famous line, "It's the economy, stupid," written on the wall of their campaign headquarters. Okay, speaking of the economy and someone who is not feeling any economic pain, Prince Charles. This is just a neat story. Prince Charles employed the equivalent of 159 full-time staff at the end of the financial year, including 26 personal staff, with compared to 149 the year before. His travel costs leapt from £692,000. I don't know. That's probably $1 million. From $700,000 to over $1 million in the same period. The prince has struggled to shake off accusations of extravagance because of the size and the cost of his household. But Sir Michael Pete, the prince's principal private secretary, I guess he's number one of 158.9, said the figures have been skewed by the royal wedding and the nature of his overseas trips. He said that the Canadians paid for a trip last year, but the UK paid for a trip this year, so it looks worse than it is. The annual review also shows the prince has managed, this is good news, Bret, I know you'll be excited about this, he's managed to cut his carbon footprint from travel and domestic use by 22%. What does he have? Who has 160 people? He's not even king yet. What did they said William and Kate had nobody, right? Couple security guards. Maybe they were going to get a person.
Mm-hmm.
They put a Craigslist ad out for someone to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush or whatever. I don't know. Doesn't that seem like a lot of people for this guy?
Yes.
He doesn't even have kids,
I'm not a fan of the
right?
monarchy, so yes.
It's a good tourist trap. He doesn't even have any young children who have to be cared for. There's no nannies. There's no grandkids, right?
Right. I mean, if I'm just thinking, if I was one of the British subjects and I'm sitting there in Nottingham or in Birmingham or London, and I'm slaving away, and the economy's not doing so hot there, in the UK, and or my prince is using my taxpayer money to gallivant across the world and his luxury, it makes me a little ticked off. So yeah, I think it's an absolute ridiculous thing. I think the monarchy is foolish, and I think it's about time to retire it. Maybe if they had some decent folks running the thing, they might be better off. But the whole thing is it goes against everything I believe is appropriate as somebody who believes in freedom and loves liberty. So I can't.
Well,
I can't
let's not
stand the whole
pretend.
thing.
Oh, wait a minute now. This is not King Henry VIII chopping his wives' heads off. This is a tourist attraction, and it's pomp and pomp and ceremony. You've been to London or England, right? Have you been to Europe?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so you actually weren't just looking at Wikipedia coming up with those localities in England. But
No, I've been to every single one of those.
Okay, that's why the 3 places I've been, he named. No, I mean I saw in the 80s. I actually saw Prince Charles and Princess Diana after their wedding. They were in their fancy car, and they had the ostrich plumes, purple ostrich feathers, and they had the seal of the House of Windsor. It was at Trafalgar Square. They just come out of the big movie theaters there, and they'd seen the premiere of, I don't know, whatever, some British movie, I assume. And they were coming along, and there was a single purple light in the windshield, which means a member of the royal family's on board. And there was a big crowd, and I said, "What's going on?" They said the Prince and Princess of Wales are coming out. And it was neat to see them. To me, it's just a tourist attraction. I don't see it as I mean, they don't have any real power.
No, but it's an expensive tourist attraction.
It's a revenue generating. I mean, your water thing in Front Royal is expensive, but it generates revenue. It's profitable.
I'd like to see the cost benefit analysis of the monarchy and how much money it brings in versus how much they're spending. Not to mention the embarrassment they're causing. But I mean, the whole thing is it's the legacy of something that should just go away. I mean, if we're truly going to embrace the idea of republicanism and liberty, we need to get rid of that history. You need to. We can still have the Buckingham Palace can be there as a museum to what was. And there were some great leaders, obviously. I mean, the King's Speech talks about, and that movie talks about, some great leaders that were in those positions. But it needs to be done away with. And I mean, I'm glad I'm not a British.
It's their choice.
No, yes,
isn't it their choice?
I'm not going to tell them, but I have an opinion, so I think it should go away.
All right.
I'm not going to put a gun to their head and tell them they have to get rid of it. Let Mr. Cameron do that.
Yeah, true. All right, this next story is great. Now I've given you softball stuff till now, but I'm gonna ask Bret Herbeck, financial advisor, former politician of the entire greater Front Royal metro area in northwestern Virginia. It's a great town. You should go sometime. It's where the Skyline Drive begins. If you're in the D.C. area, just go down 66 till it ends in Front Royal, exit 6, and join the tourists, the motorhomes, the bikers, the cars full of families checking out Skyline Drive, make sure you go to Shenandoah River State Park. I'm a former president of the Friends Group there. It's a great park in Bentonville, Virginia. There's 2 Bentonvilles in the United States. One has Walmart, one does not. All right. This is a story from the Telegraph in the UK. This is great. I think this was on Drudge today. I actually saw it in the Telegraph, then I saw it on Drudge. Having a head of state who only visits the country every 2 or 3 years plays right into the hands of Republicans as opposed to monarchists. So Bret is a Republican, capital R U.S. He's also a Republican in terms of not having a monarchy. But as they prepare for the arrival of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, that would be William and Kate, later this week, royalists in Canada have come up with a novel solution to the age-old problem: install Prince Harry as King of Canada. They want the prince, who is third in line to the throne, to set up home in the capital, Ottawa, to give the royal family a permanent presence and to silence those who believe the country should have an elected head of state. A provincial spokesman for the Monarchist League of Canada pointed out that the royal family was an institution that knows how to reinvent itself and believes now may be the right time for radical change. Prince Harry, who has virtually no chance of becoming king, he's a spare, could set himself up there and found a Canadian branch of the royal family, he said. Or the future king could rotate. 6 months in Canada, 6 in Australia, 6 in London. Maybe New England, Bret. Other members of the Monarchist League, which has 10,000 members in Canada, have discussed the idea of allocating a member of the royal family to each of the 16 Commonwealth realms. Because remember, the monarch in England is also head of all 16 Commonwealth, I think Australia and I think India, maybe? Maybe not. New Zealand, Jamaica, Belize. Eugene, unpronounceable last name, another member of the league, admitted that a Canadian court of Prince Harry was not particularly likely, but suggested a more realistic goal would be to give members of the royal family Canadian titles. Although the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, William and Kate, are expected to be warmly welcomed by the vast majority of Canadians, the future of the monarchy in Canada is by no means certain, with some opinion polls suggesting 2/3 of the population would prefer the country to be a republic. Mr. Berlusconi, however, said the royal couple could expect a fantastic reception. They are extremely popular here. Their wedding was a TV sensation, so we are expecting record crowds on the streets. A spokesman for St. James Palace declined to comment on the suggestion that Prince Harry should set up his own court in Ottawa. So here's the tough question, Bret. Do you think that Prince Harry should become King of Canada?
You know what? There's a lot of pretty Canadians out there that he can go hook up with, so I'm sure that would be appealing to old Prince Harry. So he seems to be quite the ladies' man. And
I don't know if there are enough pubs in Canada to quest the royal appetite. They have a lot of pubs. Maybe I don't know if they have enough for Prince Harry.
Well, I'm sure you got Western Ontario there in London and McGill in Toronto. So you got college towns, you got pubs, and of course the British Columbia and Victoria out there on the West Coast, they have nothing on, or they're gorgeous compared to some of the areas of England that I visited. So, yeah, maybe it's a good idea from him and get away from an overbearing grandmother and an estranged father, and he can set up his own new little family up there. So, hey, you know what? It's a good gig if you can get it.
I think it'd be cool. Maybe we get some while you're going across the northern border to buy your prescriptions. You can swing by the Ottawa Palace of King Harry. Can you imagine the parties he would throw?
We may see some. He might actually add a line to the GDP of Canada, just from his own activities. So, right there,
Agreed.
Just like Michael Jordan did in Chicago.
Maybe he could do underwear commercials. All right. Okay, we've exhausted this topic, but I do want to. We have a couple juicy topics left, and I want to talk about something before we get to these. But the three official topics we have left: the top Russian scientist says that Earth will encounter extraterrestrial civilizations within the next 2 decades. Not a flake. A top Russian scientist. Also, a hot trend is overnight stays at zoos. We'll look into that. And 300 new species like this swell shark, this nudibranch, some sort of swimming thing, and this soft coral have been discovered in the Philippines, and we will take a look into that story as well. I want to talk about this new Facebook competitor. I have a bunch of different websites, and I use this guy, Rich WP. His name's Felix. The it's richwp.com, and he does themes and infrastructure to set up WordPress-based websites. And one thing that he wrote in his manual, and I think he borrowed it from someone else, but he said your website is your home base. He said social networks come and go, a la MySpace. And he says that you should originate your content on your own home base, your own website, and then aggregate it out to these social networks. And I think he has, I think he makes sense, as we see that now it looks like MySpace may actually just be shuttered. And it's sort of sad because I remember I used it a few years ago, and the first Warren County report was a similar looking site, and Facebook, I think, was modeled in part after it. They were sort of came along around the same time. I think Facebook was a little bit after, but now there's this thing, Google Plus, which is a new social network. What do you think, Bret? Do you think that Facebook is the end-all permanent thing, or do you think Google may, chomp on their heels and others to come? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I don't think Facebook is the end. I think that is the beginning of. Facebook seems to have done a very good job of recreating itself constantly, maybe even to its own detriment, that people start getting used to it and all of a sudden they make some changes. But as long as they stay innovative, like Apple, they will continue to survive and be the dominant player in the social networking field. But as soon as they let their guard down, somebody else is going to come in and do something better and more innovative. I mean, you just pointed out MySpace seemed to be the one that came out right away, and all the teenagers were on that doing their thing, and Facebook certainly overtook them, and now MySpace is going to go away. And I don't really shed any tears for a company that goes out of business. I think it's good for progress and moving forward. So I'm probably not going to be the person that comes up with the next best great idea on social networking. But I'm sure there's some student at MIT or some kid in his parents' basement in high school that it's coming up with some unique takeoff. I think Facebook will always be the one that we look to as probably the grandfather of the industry, but certainly it will not be the end thing. There'll be something else. I mean, there's been a couple of them too. There was, of course, LinkedIn is now a big one, a publicly traded company. But what was there was something, I forgot what it, People something, a couple years ago that everybody.
I don't have time. You only have so many hours.
Yeah.
To do this.
So I mean, there's a lot of them out there, and then Flickr and Twitter and all these other things that have different niches. But no, I look forward to what's going to come next. And if Facebook's the end of it, well, then it was a short-lived industry, and it deserves to go away, because I think there's better things, better people have better ideas out there too.
I think Facebook mainly looked at MySpace and made it more less kid-oriented, more older people. It started out, of course, just at Harvard, and then they added other colleges, and it was people wanted to be on it because you had to have initially a harvard.edu address, and then I guess they added other Ivy League schools and expanded, and then went wide open. And also they have a lot more control. MySpace, you'd have all these, weird GIF files and everything going on. And it was more kid-oriented.
Well,
and spam
the
from
interesting
bands.
thing is that, I'm sorry?
I said, and MySpace was a lot of spam and a lot of spam from bands you've never heard of. Go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say when I was a freshman at Virginia Tech, so this was early 90s, well, we had the Facebook. And so, I mean, it certainly started from college, and as you pointed out, for Facebook being Harvard. But we actually got the freshman Facebook that looked just like a yearbook you got in high school. I mean, it was bound and had all the freshman pictures in it, so you knew you at least recognized some faces when you got on campus. Campus, 6,000 people in your freshman class. So, I saw it as an outgrowth of that, and when I first heard about Facebook, and you needed to have, of course, after Harvard, you needed an EDU address, and then they finally opened it up. But it's become, I just sat down with a business owner today who we set up a Facebook page for her business, and I was walking her through that. So, because I think it's so important for that kind of marketing, and but there's going to be something else. There's going to be something else that's going to come up, and and it'll be better, and we'll all be better off for it, I think.
I agree. I think everyone is like that. Last night we talked about this political blog in Rockville, Maryland, that is completely switched over to Facebook. That's the only place they publish, and I think that's a huge mistake. They need to have their content on their own site and aggregate to Facebook, but that's a whole different thing. All right, let's talk about this juicy story. A top Russian astronomer says he expects humans to encounter extraterrestrial civilizations within the next 2 decades. Russian scientists, he said, speaking at an international forum dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial life, the scientist Andrei Finkelstein said 10% of the known planets circling suns in the galaxy resemble the Earth. If water can be found there, then so can life, he said, adding that aliens would most likely resemble humans with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. They may have different color skin, but even we have that, he said. Finkelstein's institute runs a program launched in the 60s at the height of the Cold War space race to watch for and beam out radio signals to outer space. The whole time we have been searching for extraterrestrial civilizations, we have mainly been waiting for messages from space and not the other way, he said. In March, a NASA scientist caused controversy after claiming to have found tiny fossils of alien bugs inside meteorites that landed on Earth. Bret, I don't think we're going to see little green men landing, but and again, it's arrogant of humans to think they have any idea what, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they're going to find microbes on some planet somewhere that don't resemble anything on Earth. What do you think?
I mean, I don't believe in little green men. I don't believe that there are spaceships. I don't believe in some of these sci-fi. I love watching the sci-fi stuff, but I don't believe that's going to happen. Now, if it showed up one day and you prove me wrong, so be it. But are there microbes and organisms on other planets or meteorites? Well, I guess we've seen that they are. They've discovered them in March, as you said. So, yeah, but is there a sentient creature like us, or one that has some kind of an intelligence level that can communicate and create and opposable thumbs that it can create tools? I doubt it. That's my personal feeling. That's my faith. And I don't really sit around too often and think about it very much. I think there's more important things to worry about than if there's a little green men that are going to blow up the Empire State Building or the White House. So
I wonder if they use
that's my personal
Facebook.
feeling.
I wonder or if they're still on MySpace.
That's right.
Let's take a look at our little. He's a gray guy. I should have photoshopped and made him green, but that's the little guy. All right, so ratings bonanza. What the heck? All right, so next up, this is kind of cool.
Well, what the fact is that he's predicting 20 years from now that we're going to see people, aliens like this. It's it's like a Notre Dame type of. On this date, we're going to see something. I mean, that's totally random. How in the world would he? I mean, to say that we're going to find microcosmic cells that could create life is one thing. That's reasonable to say we might find that in 20 years, but to find a little green man that's going to fly a spaceship over the next 20 years is kind of, I think he's a little delusional. Maybe he had been sipping too much of that Russian vodka that they like.
I don't think it's like that loon who predicted the apocalypse and spent all of his followers' money on these billboards, only to be, for the second time, proven wrong. Because I think the Bible says, anyone's a liar who says he knows the date. But
yep.
But
what? That was my. You know what the funny thing is that date was my birthday, and I found it very ironic that I've been.
I think we've lost Bret.
Messiah.
Okay, you're back.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
You you were gone for a second, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh. No, I just said anything. It was ironic that the day that was my birthday, that the day the world was supposed to end, and I've been accused of having a messianic complex, and the fact that I've been called a messiah, and that's the day that the world was supposed to end. I always thought that was kind of a interesting thing, a nice little boost to my ego.
Well, I like a little. You got to have a little ego to be good on his show. So, Mario and I appreciate your Messiah complex. Although some of your political enemies in Front Royal apparently do not. But that's a subject for another show.
That's right. That's right.
All right. I have to get you in easy, right, with a soft show first. All right, this is kind of cool. You're a family. You got 2 kids, right?
3.
3 kids. Okay.
I have 3.
You don't have anything on Michelle Bachman yet, but that's a good start. All right. Let's look at this is cool. Overnight stays at zoos. This is from Reuters. For wild animal lovers not content with watching tigers and gorillas during the day, a growing number of zoos are offering a more thrilling after-dark experience, overnight stays. From Philadelphia to Denver, nocturnal visitors are learning what happens when the gates slam shut, the sun goes down, and the moon rises over some of America's best-known zoos. The Philadelphia Zoo has been running its Roars and Snores overnight programs for about 20 years. The most popular theme program is the Night Flight Overnight program, where children aged 5 to 12 sleep in the zoo's treehouse. The overnight stays are not only popular with young children. Teen programs are offered at many zoos for those young adults interested in the zoo industry. They are also a favorite venue for birthday sleepovers, family trips, and with scout troops. We customize the overnight to whatever badge the scouts are trying to complete that night, the gentleman said. Most overnight stays include a night tour, during which youngsters experience the mysterious sights and unusual sounds of the zoo without the usual distractions. A midnight snack and breakfast are also served. On Denver's 2-hour tours, night vision scopes are provided so guests can see nocturnal animals such as owls, and indoor educational games enhance the learning experience. Guests at the new overnight program at the Wildlife Conservation Society's Queens Zoo in New York make breakfast treats for parrots, bears, pigs, pumas, and coyotes, and watch the keepers feed them to the animals the next morning. And a guy said prices for the Denver Zoo overnight program range from $45 to $65 per person, depending on the group and program. And the only problem was that parents didn't realize the parrots could be so loud at 3:30 in the morning. I think that's neat.
I think it's great. That's an awesome thing to be able to do that. My kids absolutely love going to the zoo and seeing the animals, and to be able to see them at night, sleep, I guess, next to them with like the cage or the glass between you. A really cool experience, and I think that'd be a wonderful opportunity. And what a great way for the Boy Scouts to work on their merit badges and that kind of environment, and just a real opportunity that the kids don't get to, especially urban kids, don't get to see. We have animals. I mean, we have plenty of deer in our backyard and bear that come through, but certainly urban kids don't get to have that opportunity. So for them to be able to experience that, that's a real tribute. I'm really happy here that the zoo, some of the zoos are doing that, especially the Brooklyn Zoo. That's doing that. So
yeah,
I think it's great.
That'd be neat in Front Royal, because Front Royal has the Smithsonian Institute has, I can't remember the new name. It used to be called the Conservation Research Center. Now it's the Smithsonian Biology, whatever. It's the same thing, I think, maybe a couple different programs, but it's a world-renowned facility, and they basically focus on endangered species, and they have some of the top scientists in the world from all over, and they work to some of these species. One of the problems is their habitat is limited now because of human growth, and some of them are it's difficult to get them to reproduce, and so what they try to find ways to artificially inseminate or learn about how to create the right romantic environment for them. And all sorts of programs like that. And they just the last few years added a cheetah facility, and they just had some adorable cheetah cubs there. But that would be a neat place to do it. I think this is great. Anything you can. There's nothing, just like if you've ever been to a big art museum, you realize why those paintings are important, and you can't get that from a textbook. You have to actually see the canvas, the 300-year-old canvas, and realize that these people are miracle workers, that they could make like a photograph on an oil. And it's just absolutely, right. It's not something I do all the time, but when I'm there, I really appreciate the talent. But you can't get that from a textbook. And
no, I mean, I love going to we love going to the Gorilla House, the National Zoo, and if we can just sit there and we just sit there and watch the gorillas interact with us because through the glass. So the idea of rolling your sleeping bag out and kind of sitting right there, laying right there overnight, that's a pretty cool experience, and it's certainly something they're never going to forget, and they're going to have and it's going to spur them to want to. The kids are going to want to learn more about that particular animal. That cheetah facility up at the Smithsonian, which you were just talking about, I had the opportunity because one of the perks of being an elected official is when those kind of things happen, I get to go to the ribbon cutting, even though it wasn't really open to the public. And that was just an awesome experience too. We were right up with a chain link fence between us and the cheetahs, and my kids got to experience that. And as you were saying, the romantic area there, they call that Lover's Lane, and they're watching as the female and the male cheetahs kind of check each other out across it. And if the zookeeper thinks that there's a connection, they'll put them together and see what happens. And apparently they were right, because there's some really some cute little cheetahs that were just born recently. So,
of course, this is a family program. It's a family program, Bret.
Okay.
Lover's Lane. Yeah, that's funny.
I apologize. So we're not going to be talking about Congressman Weiner then.
No, we're not going to be. I don't know. I mean, no, I'm kidding. We could talk about talk about a Twitter gaffe. He makes the how did you know? I remember O'Reilly. It was hysterical. He was on there. And it was early in the thing, because at first you're like, "What is Twitter account was hacked? How do you know?" And I'm thinking, I use Twitter. How would someone hack it unless they got your password or something? And then he's like, "Well, I can't say 100% that it's not a picture of me." And I'm like, if I mean, of course you could say, And then I remember O'Reilly was on there, and he's like, "It's him. Come on, it's him. Come on, it's him. The picture's him." And it was just really funny. And then, of course, it just piled on. And but yeah, that was wow, what a fail! What a high-tech fail! That's worse than the Alaskan senator. The internet's a series of tubes.
Right. Well,
man,
don't Google the picture. By the way, I had the unfortunate opportunity to see the picture that was from the Amos and Andy show. That image is now burned in my mind's eye that I'll never be able to extract, and it was just not pleasant. So I just take people's word for it. If they've seen it, don't go and Google it, because it is not necessary.
And the original one was actually rather tame compared to some of the follow-ups. But that was just a circus. That whole, and then his 45-minute mea culpa speech. I mean, I would have just released a press release. But I guess he thought he was going to weather the storm, which was just, I don't think so.
Well, when you have the Democrats who defended Bill Clinton coming out and telling you you need to resign, they knew somewhere in internal polling was telling them that he was bad news for him.
That's a whole different thing. I don't know. That whole thing. I mean, that was. I don't know if that was. I don't see that should have been an impeachable thing. I think the American people reached that conclusion. I mean, what he did was wrong. If he should have behaved himself for 8 years. The American people knew, what they were voting for, that he had this issue, and some of those, to quote Carville again, the bimbo or one of his aides, the bimbo eruptions, turned out to be not as full of hot air as they initially suggested. But that was the whole thing.
The issue on the impeachment wasn't that he slept with an intern or had relations with an intern. The issue was that he lied under oath. He perjured himself, and that's the fundamental issue with our legal system. If we can't trust the people that are under.
I understand what the legal issue was.
He's the one that's supposed to be enforcing the law. So, I was in Washington during that impeachment process, and we were not harping on the Ken Starr whole. Is this going to be a Danielle Steele novel coming out here? That was a distraction. The real fundamental issue that got, I think, the congressman ready to impeach and vote for impeachment was the fact that he obstructed justice, he lied under oath, and the irony of the whole thing was that he was being prosecuted and investigated under laws that he signed for the sexual harassment laws that he signed, that Paula Jones was able to sue him under. So, I mean, that's not relevant. That's just funny. But no, that it was a legal question, and it became a sexual question when the American people said, once it became that, they kicked it down and said, forget it. What has it led to?
I mean, it was they murdered Vince Foster. They Whitewater thing, that it just went on, and then Ken Starr, added that to his investigation, and it was just I don't know. I don't think it was anybody's business. I mean, it was wrong. He shouldn't have done it. He's married, It was like the Tiger Woods thing, and she was 22 years old, kid. But I'll tell you this: if he could have run for a third term, I bet he would have won. How much you want to bet?
Oh, I bet he would have won. And you know what? With this guy that's in the office right now, I wish he was here.
Well, he set in place a lot of the policies that. Well, it was a bipartisan thing. The policies creating the derivatives and the housing bubble that has now given us this depression that was, I guess, begun in the 80s under Reagan, carried on with Bush and Clinton, and Bush too, and then here we are. It just that's a whole thing. I don't know. Maybe you sell those things. I don't know.
No, I don't. But what happened in 2008 was the seeds were laid definitely much earlier than that. But what I mean is that where Obama is willing to continue to pivot to the left, and thinks that's how he's going to get reelected, Clinton would have realized and did realize and read the tea leaves correctly and said, I got to go to the center. And although I still disagree with them on a lot of those things, I'd rather him be in the center than far left, which is what our president's doing now. So,
but Clinton wasn't a far left guy. Clinton was a
no, he's not.
He's always been center left. He compromised with the Republicans and got some stuff done. He was a long term, several terms as governor of Arkansas. They lost and came back, but he wasn't a socialist by any definition. And he
wasn't ideological like this guy.
I bet you wish you'd bought a bunch of stock in 92 when he came into office and sold it at the end of his term, because you'd have made a whole lot of money. The stock market basically tripled or something, or 5 times up, something crazy.
I can't comment on stock business with that's not sanctioned by my firm. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, just after the show's over, you can give me some hot tips.
There you go. I can do that.
All right. You can't even comment on stocks in the 90s? Okay, I'm not going to press you.
I don't know. Let's go in a place where the SEC might start investigating me. So
maybe they can pull some of those Google people off, and they can go after you. All right. Up next, a zoo or 300 new species discovered in the Philippines by the California Academy of Sciences. This spring, scientists from the California Academy of Sciences braved leeches, lionfish, whip scorpions, and a wide variety of other biting and stinging creatures to lead the most comprehensive scientific survey effort ever conducted in the Philippines, documenting both terrestrial and marine life forms from the tops of the highest mountains to the depths of the sea. They were joined by more than 24 colleagues from the Philippines, as well as by a team of Academy educators. Excuse me. Over the course of the expedition, which was funded by a generous gift from Margaret and Will Hurst, the scientists discovered more than 300 species that are likely new to science, including dozens of new insects and spiders, deep-sea armored corals, ornate sea pens, bizarre new sea urchins and sea stars, a shrimp-eating swell shark, and over 50 colorful new sea slugs. The Philippines is one of the hottest of the hot spots for diverse threatened life on Earth, said Dr. Terrence Gossinger. He went on, despite this designation, however, the biodiversity here is still relatively unknown, and we found new species during nearly every dive and hike as we surveyed the country's reefs, rainforests, and ocean floor. The species lists and distribution maps that we created during this expedition will help to inform future conservation decisions and ensure that this remarkable biodiversity is afforded the best possible chance of survival. Despite intensive efforts to document life on Earth, scientists estimate that more than 90% of the species on this planet have yet to be discovered. They encountered more than the 300 species, including such notable finds as a cicada that makes a distinctive laughing call. They're calling it a laughing cicada. A deep-sea swell shark. If you're watching on Ustream or on YouTube, showing pictures of these, the swell sharks here. It inflates its stomach with water to bulk up and scare off other predators. A starfish that exclusively eats sunken driftwood. 3 new lobster relatives that squeeze into crevices instead of carrying shells on their backs, a crab whose pincers are lined with needle-like teeth, and a worm-like pipefish that hides among colonies of soft coral. There's some soft coral, and this is a nudibranch. I think that's maybe that's one of the fish that hides under the soft coral. There's so many neat things still to be discovered. I think what they say, only that 90% or better have not yet been documented. And as I said earlier, it's arrogant for us to say they're new species. They're not. It's just new to us because they haven't been written about or photographed yet. I think that's kind of neat. Can you imagine? It'd be kind of a thrill to. But they said that it's so uncharted over there that basically, or at least uncharted by scientists, that you can go anywhere and you know, and there's a new bug, there's a new this is a new fly, you know, or whatever. And so I think that's pretty cool. Well, the swell sharks are neat.
Yeah, the rainforest, the deep oceans. I mean, there's so many things that we haven't explored, and that's the amazing thing about what the Earth and provides for us. I mean, that whole ecosystem balance that we just don't know so much about. And we have to be careful of being good stewards of the planet, because we don't know all this stuff. I don't know that it's necessarily being arrogant. I mean, we are the top of the food pyramid, if you will. And we're the ones that the winners write the history, right? So we're the ones that document everything. But it's pretty cool. These are pretty cool things that they've discovered, and I would expect we're going to continue to discover a lot of these things as we develop our technology and able to go deeper into the ocean and deeper into the caverns and explore and be safer in the Amazon and the equator countries. So, no, pretty cool stuff.
Go to one of those overnight zoo visits at that cheetah facility, and we'll see who's at the top of the food chain, Bret.
Well, give me a gun, and I guess I will be.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we're armed, you know, we don't have a whole lot of natural defenses. But yeah, that's cool. That's neat.
Unless you say your brain is one of them. Your brain is an important tool. That's what would give us the ability to create all these things.
That's true. That's true. I like to think.
I'd like to see that cheetah develop a gun.
True. Maybe some of the upright on two. Maybe the little green guy. I don't know. But they're too busy. They're wasting all their time with MySpace. But anyway, all right. Bret Herbeck, you got a website or anything people can check out, or
they can go to well, you know what? They can go to facebook.com/vote Herbeck. Because that's all I have right now until the
and it's it's an odd spelling. Yeah, it's a weird spelling. No offense. Okay, it's Bret. It's on the screen now. Bret, Bret, just one T, and Herbeck is Hrbek.
Yep.
Hrbek. Yeah. There's probably only one vote Herbeck, right?
There is, as far as I know. You can also just Google my name, and you'll find out all the scandalous stuff that I was involved with in Front Royal. So.
Are you running for anything? You going to run for town council again, or mayor?
I would expect to run for at least town council next May. So we'll be working starting in January or February.
How do you think the new mayor's doing? Tim Dar and Front Royal.
Do I have to answer that question?
Okay, you just answered it.
I liked him a lot. I think that he's running into some of the same problems that he criticized Mayor Tiwat for, trying to control some of the clowns that we have as representatives of our community. Now, that's not to say that you should come. You should come to Front Royal. Spend your money, visit us, go to our shops. They're wonderful. Eat at our restaurants. But you may want to not move here until we get some new leadership in our community.
It's a low-tax town, right?
It is a very low-tax town, very competitive against our neighbors. So it's a good place to have a business, actually. And I've been running my business here for 10 years and watched this place grow up and expand. I grew up in Front Royal, so I remember when we had to travel all the way to Manassas, Virginia, to go to the mall before Winchester got theirs, and now we finally got a Target and Walmart ourselves. So we're up and comers here in Front Royal, on the gorgeous North and South Fork of the Shenandoah River, and at the start of the Skyline Drive, as you mentioned before. So, great place to visit, great place to live, great place to run a business. You don't want to wait until I'm on the town council again before you do that, though.
One of the things we're going to talk about tomorrow. First, let me say our condolences to Richard Poff, who's a former 6th District Congressman of Virginia. Former Congressman Richard Poff has died. And also some good news. Virginia was named by CNBC as the top state in the country for business. So we'll be discussing that, hopefully with a special guest. Still working out the details on tomorrow night's show at 8 o'clock, live on Blog Talk Radio and on Ustream. And you can always watch it or listen to it and get links to everything at McDermottReport.com. That's McDermott report.com. Thanks so much, Bret Herbeck from Front Royal, Virginia. I appreciate you joining us this evening.
You're welcome, Dan. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, Bret, you take care, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.